Unless you've been living under a rock the past 6 months, you will agree that we Americans have seemed to have lost our flippin' minds, and it's all because of the presidential election. I have personally witnessed 13 presidential elections. As a voting adult, I have voted in 9. And at some point during each of those 9 elections, I have listened to the battle cry that the world was coming to an end if the other guy wins. I am here to reassure you that, well, I'm still here, and you are still here probably too. What made this recent election so different? Well, honestly, nothing. Oh, and of those 9 elections I voted in, I only voted for the winner 4 times. And this past November, that was number 4. I'm sorry to all of my Hillary supporter friends, but anyway, back to the point I'm trying to make. So why are half of my friends afraid to go to bed at night and the other half are sleeping like babies? It's all in the narrative. Simple, the narrative. Walter Fisher is a communications professor, and he came up with what he calls the narrative paradigm, which is all meaningful communication is a form of storytelling or the reporting of events. This paradigm promotes the belief that we are all storytellers as well as listeners, and we are more persuaded by a good story than we are by a good argument. Because of this, we experience and comprehend life as a series of ongoing narratives, each with its own conflicts, characters, beginning, middle, and end. Fisher believes that all forms of communication that appeal to our reasons are best viewed as stories. These stories are shaped by history, culture, and character. This shift is a departure from the rational world paradigm, which values knowledge over emotion. Simply put, the traditional paradigm of the rational world is a scientific approach to knowledge that assumes that people are logical and makes decisions on the basis of evidence as well as lines of arguments. Going back to the so-called rise of Donald Trump, the rational world paradigm saw this election as a set of logical puzzles that ultimately was solved through rational analysis. It was rational to see that the middle class was stagnant. It was rational to see that politicians, both Republicans and Democrats, had lied to us for too long, and a change, any change, was a logical solution. The only logical thinker among all the candidates was this outsider, really, and it was Donald Trump. So we know about the rational, but what about this new narrative? Well, Walter Fisher, in his study, suggested that we look at a new paradigm of the narrative rationality, which views narrative as the basis of all human communication. The ways in which people explain and ultimately justify their behavior has more to do with telling a credible story than it does with producing evidence or constructing a logical argument. Fisher believes people are essentially storytellers, and each person chooses the story that matches his or her values and beliefs. Now, Donald Trump cleverly took advantage of these hard facts, these rational, evidential arguments, and applied a narrative that apparently struck a chord with millions. Was he aware of this brilliant psychoanalytical move? I have no idea. But explain how a true political outsider rolled over what was undoubtedly the most seasoned Republican field of politically savvy candidates in our lifetime. Not to mention a Democratic opponent that was self-christened to be president just by default. So here we sit. It's a new world order where decisions are made on good reasoning, not necessarily on good arguments. No longer is rationality based on good knowledge, but rather on people's awareness of the storyteller. Now, you may like him or you may hate him, but Donald Trump is a good storyteller. And believe him or believe him not, we can't seem to put the book down.